All right, you maggots, listen up. These are two Z-axis clamps. One's holding a rotor zip and one's holding a Dremel. Whenever you hold a Dremel in a CNC machine, you want to have it held in two different places. A Dremel is extremely accurate, and it's got a lot more power than you would expect it to have. But you have to take it apart, and you have to shim it, you have to know how to do that. And rotor zip can do aluminum. But I just wanted to say I built these. I built these. Oh, did I mention I built these? That's for the guy that you say you built the thing too many times. Where's your videos, dude? So I want to tell you about a friend of mine. His name's Frank. He had a computer store, and his girlfriend was a dancer at Guys and Dolls, and she would tell her other dancer friends that her boyfriend had a computer store, so they would mosey on by and come in, sometimes with a computer to be repaired. Sometimes they would just make believe they were in the area. They wanted to check him out, see what he was like. But this went on a lot. And one of the girls that come in, one of the dancers, said she took a course, and it was so I was losing my mind. She's talking about people with deformities on their face and how she can fix this, and she's going on and on and on. But the main part of this story was she was going to rent this big office space, and she's saying how you're going to come in, you're going to have a receptionist, and I don't think of like that's like a doctor's office. You better have a lot of patience. I really couldn't grasp what she did, and I said, oh really? I'm not following you. What you do? So she goes out to her car to get some information to come back in. And my friend Frank, he's the one that taught me how to tell when someone's lying. He looks at me, he says, I'll get to the bottom of this, watch. So she comes back through the door. He asked her like a sentence or a sentence and a half, and it turned out she shows people how to put makeup on their face to hide deformities by using shading and stuff like that. But think about, she's talking about a doctor's office with a reception area with it was insanity. So I started talking. I said, look, do you know that 50% of all businesses fail the first year? She's looking at me like stunned. I said, you didn't take a business course, did you? And she's like, no, this is my dream. This is my dad. I said, look, oh, stop. I said, I'm going through that right now with my CNC. And I said, you better have some customers before you even start your business. She had no clients. She had just finished this course the week before. And I talked to her. So what she ended up doing was her and another girl with some other idea. They rented an office space. She came back to visit. I was there. It failed. It failed miserably. She had no customers. Neither did the other girl. But Frank taught me how to tell when someone's lying. But I never got to the point where I understood when someone was bullshitting. Now, I worked in this place, McGraw-Edison, and we had a boss. I'll call him Goldbrick. That's what he was. He was a Goldbrick. And he was a boss, and he worked at Bendix, and he would constantly tell you how great he was at Bendix and all that. Meanwhile, they laid him off. Now he's my boss. And he had two guys that followed him around. They didn't work. They just one stood on one side, one stood on the other one. The one had an actual clown face. He did this weird thing with his tongue. And then the other one on the other side, he would just go around and hit on all the women in the place. The two of them didn't do any work. So Goldbrick come over to me, and he's got the henchman on each side of him, and the head tech with him, and he's telling me, why does it take so long for you to refurb these motors? Now, each instrument that came in, it was like a engine pressure. It had a DC motor on each end of a cloth tape, and the tape would go up and down like a thermometer in the gauge. And there were four of them, and it was a cockpit instrument on like a Boeing 747 or whatever, and it was a beautiful piece of equipment, and it functioned flawlessly. But every so many thousand hours, it has to be sent back. It has to be refurbed. You have to take those motors apart. You have to clean them. You have to check the bearings. You have to check the brushes, and you have to check the end plate. You have to put it all back together. So I told him, I said, there's a lot of steps involved. And I'm explaining it to him. Well, Goldbrick is standing there. He picks up one of the motors and he starts turning the shaft. He says, there's something in this motor. So I take the motor from my turner and I said, no. I said, that's the magnetic pole. I said, these motors have 32 poles in them. Well, he didn't understand what a pole was. He's a genius from Bendix, but he didn't understand. The henchman on the other side, they're totally clueless. The head tech, he's not going to step on anything. He's not going to get involved. So we go over to the microscope and we take one apart. And as we take it apart, he goes, why are the two sets of brushes in here? I said, there's 32 poles in on this armature. And I said, that's so it basically was sort of like an early stepping motor, but it only had 2 leads. And they had one motor on each side of this tape. And they might have a spring involved in it, a clock spring on each motor. I didn't get really into it. I got into the motor. And when one motor would go one way, the other motor would go the opposite. So the tape would go up and down in the glass window, which was all hermetically sealed. It had all kinds of special lighting. So Goldstein's like, opens this up. He don't even know what he's looking at. The 2 henchmen are just nodding along with him. And he took all the motors apart, trying to find what was jamming these motors. I said, they're not jammed. I said, if you turn them hard enough, they'll turn. So they're going on and on. So they decided that the henchmen and Goldbrick decided they were going to go to lunch. And while they went to lunch, they took one of the motors. Well, of course, in the hallway, they bumped into the motor engineer, and he told them, yeah, that's the ratcheting of each pole of the motor, the magnetic pole to the rotor. So the outside housing of the motor, it was only 1 inch square. That was the magnet, and you had to magnetize that. I had to demagnetize it, magnetize it, put it back together, check it for end plate, check it for torque, check it. You did resistance, you did high pot, which was electrical breakdown from the windings of the rotor to the metal case or to the rotor. There's a megger. A megger is high voltage AC. A high pot is high voltage DC. You had to run this motor through refurb, total refurb. And I won't say it's cheaper. Now it's cheaper to buy just a new motor, but in those days we rebuilt the motors. So after lunch, Goldstein, I said his name, Goldbrick didn't even want to talk about the motor because he realized he was wrong and just make believe it didn't happen. And the 2 henchmen, and then the head tech, who's since listed himself as an engineer. He's not an engineer. It's amazing what you go through with bullshit artists. But in there, when I would sit there, the guy next to me who ended up quitting and leaving, and he used to say, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. And he had a spray can, and it said, bullshit repellent. And when Goldbrick would come out, or Goldstein would come out to bother him, he would spray Goldstein or Goldbrick with the spray to get rid of them. And then he ended up quitting. He had enough of the nonsense. And he would turn and tell me, he goes, the guy has no clue what he's doing. And I realized it after a while. And he kept promising to teach me gyros. And then I met someone that worked with him, and they said, he's a bullshit artist. That's all he is. And then the other bosses in the place, they kept telling me, you know your boss is just a bullshit artist. The reason his section's doing so well is he's got good workers. There were 6 of us that were good. The rest were just dead weight. And that's the way it went. But I just wanted to tell you about bullshit. And like I said, that girl come in the computer store. I was totally blown away. I could not figure out what she was doing. And she's talking like a doctor. And that she was taught how to talk about the procedure because she went to the school. And the school teaches you how to put makeup on and use shading so it hides deformities of, like, if someone got in a car accident and had scars on their face and stuff like that. But think about it. She teaches the person how to put the makeup on. Why would the person come back again? So all your clientele is one time. Well, how many people actually need that service? The whole thing was bad right from the beginning. But it was so funny. My friend Frank, when he taught me how to tell someone was lying, he says, it's going to change your life. And then the girl goes out to the car to get some paperwork, and he says, watch how quick I get to this. See, I'm asking all these questions and trying not to be rude. He just formulates this question, or question in a sentence and a half. She comes through the door, and he nails it. Bang. She's telling me, yeah, I show them how to put makeup on. I'm like, you're gonna have a freaking, 1,000 square foot office with a foyer and plants, and that's what I understand now about people. They're delusional. They're bullshit. And then there's the people that go around that don't do anything but think they could. And I did mention I built these, right? I really pissed the guy off. And guess what? These units were built by hand. And I didn't realize that I could use a scroll saw, a hand saw, and a belt sander, and a drill press, and some hand tools, and turn out incredible pieces of work. I didn't realize that other people, even with a full machine shop, have no skills. They buy tools, but they don't know how to use them. They don't have any skill. And then they start emailing me when I was selling the plans. I need you to make such and such parts. I can't get them done. And they're emailing me pictures of their shop. And I'm like, how did you become a tool maker? Now, I always told you my dad was a tool maker, and he was trained on the job. And I would build something, and he would stand there perplexed. And he goes, how did you build that? I said, that's just a bolt. Look, I cut a bolt this way, I drilled a hole in here, and I filed over here. And he's standing there. Well, how did you know how to do that? And I'm like, I don't know. It's a skill. I don't know. It's a gift. And that's what me and my father would get in these bad arguments, because he would say something like, you think you're smarter than everybody else. And I would think it, but I would never say to him, not everybody else, just you. I wouldn't do that to my dad. He was a nice guy, but he had this streak in him. And my mother used to say, your father is so jealous of you. Now, what man would be jealous of his own son? I didn't realize this exists. And then years later, all he did was brag about me. And it caused all this crap to come to my house. Everybody thought that I was going to fix stuff for free, which I did in some cases. But if I look back on my life, would I do certain things differently? Oh, you bet it. You bet. There'd be broken noses all over the place. You don't let people push you around. I did. I was always the Jesus turn the other cheek. Actually do it, not spout about Jesus. Just turn the other cheek, walk away. My father always taught me, walk away. It's not worth it. If somebody hits you, punch them back. Actually, when they hit you, hit them back twice, because they had the nerve to touch you. First time, the first hit is for touching you. The second one is so they don't do it again. That's where I'm at now. And certain people were like, boy, you've changed. No, I've gotten older. And I realized that being a nice guy, you do finish last. Not totally dead last, but you don't do as well as you should have done. Because you got to be aggressive in life. If you want to be successful, I had this guy, I had a whole website explaining how my machines could be built with hand tools, and you need skill. And then this guy basically took the whole paragraph and put it on his website. Not word for word, but damn close. And he built a CNC machine at an HDPE. Now, if you know anything about HDPE, it's used around food processing. It's white plastic, and it can handle like detergents and stuff like that. So he builds this machine, and I have sheets of HDPE in my workshop because I hooked up with a plastics guy, and he started sending me plastic for free, hoping I could find a use for it so he could get rid of it because he had excess. And he sends me HDPE, and I thought it was glued to the front steps. It was only a couple of sheets, and I got it in the cellar. I opened the box up, and I couldn't believe how heavy it was. So now I'm looking at this guy's CNC machine, and I'm saying, that thing's got to be 300 pounds. And it was. And he sells his first one. And he kind of mentions it. I think he had a log on his page or on one of the groups. And I read it. Well, it didn't make it through shipping. He didn't pack it right. It broke up. Guy took pictures of it broken up, put it on the internet. And the guy didn't want to replace it because he didn't take the insurance out on it. He didn't want to give the guy the money back. It was pretty funny stuff. But he disappeared. And then I had another guy go off on me. There was a website called CNC Kits. And the guy just listed 3 machines he's coming out with and all the specifications. So this guy writes me an email, and he wants me to compare 3 of my machines to 3 of the guy's specifications. And I wrote back, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it until I see a machine. Oh, you're a jerk. Back and forth, back and forth. The guy never did produce the machines. CNC Kit never did. He came out with a large toroid coil for AC to make a power supply for CNC, and a large capacitor. And this other guy that would just copy other people's ideas took those ideas and put them on his web page. There was a big brouhaha about that. But there were a lot of copycats, and the person would get burned, and then they would contact me. Like a person would take one of my sets of plans and then put it on eBay, and I wouldn't always catch it, or somebody wouldn't always catch it. So then the guy buys the set of plans for $8, and he starts contacting me for help. And I'm like, well, what's your name? He goes, what does that matter? I said, no. I said, when you buy a set of plans, you buy support for $36. And I said, I'm not going to give the support to anyone that's gotten a copy of it at work, or, because I know the people disappear after 3 days. They ask a bunch of questions, you answer, you spend a couple hours, and then they disappear. I caught on to it. The biggest screw-ups in life have lots of questions. They're constantly asking questions, and they don't learn anything. They can't put the data together. They can regurgitate it, but they can't use it. That's why there's a lot of people come out of college with degrees in business, and they can't make change. Let's put it. That's the simple way. I dealt with a guy that took a business course, and he came out, and I won't tell you what he did, but I got involved with him, and he couldn't figure things in his head, and he would get this real stupid blank look on his face when he was trying to do math. And I'm like, how did he go through college? Well, he went to one of the worst colleges in New Jersey. That's how he did it. They took his money. They gave him a degree. I won't go into the whole story. It's amazing. And he was a person that was hanging around me all the time. I got rid of him. After a while, you have to realize you have to move on. You got to be around people that are equal or smarter than you. You can't have these clinger-on type people. All they do is they whine that their life is terrible, and they want you to straighten stuff out. You straighten it out, they screw it up. You straighten it out, they screw it up. That's all you're going to get. And I won't go into it in great detail, but I had a lot of people, they call it hitching your horse. They hitch their horse to your wagon. And that's the old saying. In other words, you're going along pretty good, and they look at you, and they want to be you. They want to be like you, but they don't have the skill. See, I see people that have more skill than me. They have more money. I know they're smarter than me. What I have that they don't have, in some cases, is I stay with something until it becomes painful, until I figure it out. With the smart person, they really got some good skills I don't have. I have to develop skills. I know that, but I stay with stuff. And in the case of the CNC stuff, coming up with the concept, you can build a machine using hand tools and simple drill press. That was big, because a lot of these guys that were trying to build CNC machines had full machine shops. They were tool makers, and they didn't understand construction. See, they can, if you show them a part, they can build it. But to design the part, they can't do it. They don't know how big to make it, what'll flex, what'll give, how many threads they have to have in something so it'll hold. I have this, it's like an inborn thing, because I did assembly work for 3 years. I put things together, machines, computers. I assembled them, I soldered them, I did the wiring harness. So after you hold this stuff for a while and you pay attention, you say, oh, that's how they do that. Oh, that's how they do this. And then when you go to design something, you already have similar designs in your head. And you've taken things apart as a kid and repaired your friends' toys. You've changed the tires on the bicycles. You've untangled chains on bicycles. You did what the other kids couldn't do. And you develop these skill sets. And I think that's it. All right, that's it.